and I'm
Very
good.
Love
all
it.
family friendly. So I'm gonna
Love
go
it.
special. Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm gonna wait till I see it on my end so I can share it. And then we do start a 30-second countdown to start the show. So just give me a second so I can see it.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, I see it. All right, we're gonna start with 30-second countdown to start the show, and I'll be right back with you.
Okay.
It wouldn't play it.
Hold on 1 second. Try that one time. Good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. Welcome to the Dani Perro Show. We're here in our home studio tonight. I'm so excited to announce my wonderful guest. I mean, we all know you obviously for functional dentistry. You have so many degrees, so many different things that you are part of. So I have Michelle. Is it Jorgenson?
Uh-huh.
Okay, with Living Well, Dr. Michelle. So thank you again for being here today. We are so excited to get your story out there and spread the word about everything going on wrong in the industry.
Exactly. Well, thank you. I appreciate the time to be here today.
So I wanted to get a little bit started in the beginning, just so we all know exactly who you are. If you can give us an idea a little bit about yourself and how this first came up in your industry, of your story.
Yeah, so I'm a general dentist, and I thought that I would just do general dentistry for the rest of my life. My father is a dentist as well. We were practicing together, and I started to get really sick. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know, what it was coming from. And I started just doing what everybody does, going to doctors and getting tests and doing all of these things, and no answers were coming. So didn't know what it was still. I eventually had to put my practice for sale because I had really bad numbness in my hands. They were painful. They were numb. I couldn't hold instruments anymore. I couldn't remember anything. It was really bad. And finally, another practitioner just said, well, if you looked into mercury as being the problem, could it be mercury? And at that time, I knew that silver fillings had mercury in them. We'd been taught that in dental school, but I'd also been taught that it wasn't concerning, that there weren't any problems with it. It wasn't a problem. And he said, well, no, it's not the fillings that you have, because I didn't have any fillings. He said, it's all the ones you've been drilling out with no protection, breathing in all that mercury. So I went and got tested. I thought, well, it won't hurt to get tested. Got tested, and that's what it was, mercury poisoning. So with mercury poisoning, you have to get it out without putting more in. And that was going to be a challenge. If I was doing the same kind of dentistry, I was a cosmetic dentist. I was drilling out all these silver fillings because people hated the way they looked. And so I had to go find out were there ways to get rid of the fillings and drill them out, take them out of people's teeth without breathing it in. And I found there was an organization that did exactly this. I didn't even know they existed. They had I started following all their protocols just for my own purpose, like for my own health. I started doing all the things that they recommended. And my patients started saying, well, what are you doing? You're wearing this crazy mask. You're wearing, you have this great big vacuum. What is all the stuff that you're doing? And so I would explain it to them, and they would say, we're so happy you're doing this for yourself, but obviously we're happy for us too, because this has to be good for us too. So that started to build some, the word started getting around. I was doing some things that were healthier. And then they started sending their doctors, and their doctors would say, gosh, do you know about this? And have you done this before? And have you heard of this? And I didn't know a lot of these things. So I would have to go and study and research and find out what they were even talking about. And then patients started just coming out of the woodwork, wanting what we were offering and saying, I've never heard that dentistry could have so much of an effect on health. And what else could be, influencing my health? And could this be why I'm still sick? And could this be why I don't feel well and I don't have energy and all of these things? And we started putting all the pieces together, that there are so many things in dentistry that can affect your overall health. So that's where the practice and all of the social reach and everything came from, was simply because I had to find an answer for myself.
And that's incredible, though, because as you did find an answer for yourself, I'm sure you also wanted to look more into your family too, right? With any of the situation that they had, or if it was affecting them physically down the line. I mean, I know your kids are young, and you and your husband obviously different as well, but anything related to health, I had no idea it was from your teeth. I swear, every time you post a reel about a patient that had trouble breathing, and it has something to do with a broken tooth, like it's mind boggling to me, right? Because I don't think even growing up, a lot of us even knew that. We always thought it was health problems, never knew it was in our teeth.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you are honestly an angel when you have that, and God sent, because you are alerting everyone and letting them know that they have to look into dentistry, or just getting their regular routine cleaning, anything like that, to see kind of what's going on. And I feel like none of us would have known that, right? And
Yeah.
all I saw many times when I was trying to just look of remineralizing my teeth for any of the cavities I had prior, you always came up. And I'm like, this woman is an angel. I was like, every single thing that she has, I practically want to live by, because I have used your products, and I'll go more into depth during the show with that. But I just have to say, like, you definitely came up as like God sent for me and my whole family, because we all deal with situations with cavities, root canals, things like that too. And yes, it's nice to try to save money in the end and not spend thousands and thousands of dollars on dental procedures. But it's also amazing to see that we have the opportunity to kind of save our teeth, and we didn't even know there was a way to remineralize your enamel or anything like that. So I have to say, it's more the fact that you probably had to go much more history and depth with all of this after you first started your practice, and where it led to you now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. There was just had to be a lot of research, trying to figure out what was going on and what I could do to, find the answers. And the answers certainly weren't found in places I expected at all.
I like I said, it's just pretty amazing to me. So I wanted to know, shortly after you had gotten the practice, right? This is something you were looking to do, different things. Within your practice, you were slowly probably tweaking things, right? Where you didn't want to use this, or you were trying to change something different. With all the research that you slowly did, when did you feel like you switched over to where it seemed more homeopathic for you and your patients?
So I started having to change what I was doing it with mercury removal right off the bat. That was the first step that I took, was let's figure out how to take mercury fillings out and do it in a way that I wasn't going to get it in my body. So that was step number one. And it was essential if I was going to stay in practice. Otherwise I would have had to sell the practice, leave the practice. There was no way I could get well. So I started dumping mercury, trying to detox it out of my body, but then started adding all these other steps. So what we did is we would use a great big vacuum at the base of the chin. We would use a rubber dam in the mouth that would keep mercury out of the mouth. We used a nose thing that would go over the nose. We would use something that would go over the face. And, all of these steps were necessary to protect the patient, but also to protect me. I wore this like crazy mercury mask and, all these things. And so that was really step number one, is let's figure out how to just make this procedure healthier. But then I've always been a questioner. I've always asked a lot of questions, and I've said, gosh, if this was going on for me, what else in dentistry is dangerous to health that no one's talking about? This was just kind of like the canary in the coal mine for me. It was just like the starting point to say, gosh, there's something going on. And the interesting thing about mercury and fillings is it's still that way today. So any silver filling that anybody has in their mouth today is 50% mercury. There's so much talk about mercury in fish and mercury in vaccines and mercury in these things, but the large majority of mercury in the environment is actually in the mouth, and no one's talking about it.
Wow, that is insane. Yeah, that's in all the drillings.
Yeah, nobody's talking about it. They're walking around with it. The fillings that are in their mouth currently, every single day, 24/7, mercury is released from them. So this is a huge source of mercury exposure that nobody even talks about. Not only, so that's for the patient, but they also don't talk about it for the practitioner, for the dentist. And
not at all. Yeah.
It's interesting because there's statistics that show that dentists have a really high rate of suicide. And I would always scratch my head at that and say, well, why would dentists have a high rate of suicide? That's kind of interesting. And they always blame it and say, because dentistry is just really stressful. And I always laughed and thought, I can think of some other jobs that are probably more stressful than what I do, like a lot of jobs that are more stressful than what I do. So if it's not just the stress, perhaps it's because all of their brains are being fried by mercury. And I just had a friend's husband just commit suicide about 2 months ago, was a dentist. Absolutely devastating, left 5 kids at home. Just devastating. And I just wonder how many dentists are going to die, before this word is out, how many patients are going to suffer before the word is out. So that's really frustrating to me. Mercury has been a known neurotoxin since the 1800s. There were the invention of it, or the findings came from the hat making industry. People would take rabbit fur and rub mercury on it, and it would turn the fur into felt. They would then use that felt to make the felt top hats that you see in pictures in the 1800s. That's what they would make the hats out of, was this rabbit fur that they'd rubbed with mercury. Well, the problem is that the hat makers were starting to get shakes so bad they couldn't hold their a fork or a spoon anymore. They couldn't feed themselves. They would walk almost so they would look drunk. And they started calling them Mad Hatters. So you've heard the term Mad Hatter on Alice in Wonderland.
Wow, what? I didn't know it went this far back.
That's where it comes from, is that these hat makers were actually going mad because they were using mercury. So now they took the same mercury, and barbers were dentists at the time, or were doing dentistry at the time. And they figured out they could mix that mercury with silver shavings and could make fillings that they could plug in people's mouths. So doctors said, we think this is a bad idea. We know that the mercury is actually making the hat makers mad, insane, shake, can't feed themselves, die these early deaths, but yet we're going to put it in people's mouths. And they did it anyway. And they're still doing it. So any silver filling going in the mouth today, and there are still silver fillings going in people's mouths today, every single day, all over the US, every single one is still 50% mercury. And
can I ask, are those the ones that the insurance covers? Do you know?
They cover it more. They cover more of the mercury fillings than they do the composite fillings. Yep, absolutely. So it's just insanity to me that there's still not talk about this. I have not been able to get pregnant on my own in over 32 years of marriage. We ended up doing a bunch of fertility work. We adopted a couple of children. And I've since learned that mercury is a huge disruptor of fertility. And I just think about how many women are in the dental industry. Maybe not the dentists, but how about all the dental assistants and the dental receptionists and the dental hygienists? They are 99% women. So this industry is full of women that could have fertility affected by these mercury levels. Every time a filling is cleaned with a hygienist, it's releasing mercury into the air, and that hygienist is breathing it in. Every receptionist sitting in the front of the office that's sitting and breathing the same recirculated air with the HVAC system in the office is breathing in every bit of mercury that's been released from any filling that's been drilled out from that day. So much mercury in the air. Nobody's talking about it. So this is one of my missions, is to think of how in the world can we get this out to the dentistry profession in general? The dentists need to know this. Dentists need to know this.
I was about to ask you that. Yeah. What's your next step? Like, what can we do?
To keep talking about it. And when I was in school, what they told me about mercury is they said if you tell a patient that it could make them sick, or that it could be a contributor to any of their diseases, you will lose your license. So that's what I was told in dental school. And that's pretty much what they still tell dentists in school now. And that's what we still believe. So I am based entirely in research. There's an organization called the IAOMT. If any of your watchers want to look it up, IAOMT.org. There's an entire thing with about 500 reference articles on mercury and everything that we can legally say now. That's not illegal, or, just some story that we're saying. So there's definitely information we can share. And my purpose is just basically to let people know that it's going on. If you have mercury fillings in your mouth, if you have silver fillings in your mouth, they're 50% mercury. So you need to figure out how to get those out safely. But then that's the next step, is it's actually worse to go to any old dentist and have them drill it out the way that I used to do it. That's actually worse because it's going to give you more mercury than the mercury that's released just from chewing every day. You're going to get mercury that way too, but you're going to get a whole bunch more when they're drilling it out. So it's worse to just have it drilled out without safe measures than to leave them in. So if you can't find a dentist that will do this, again, the IAOMT.org has a directory of dentists that are trained how to do this. Find someone who can do it safely if you're going to remove any of those fillings. Otherwise, you're just going to move that mercury into other parts of your body and you're going to get more sick. So that's a really, really important thing to understand. So that was really the place that I started was fillings and mercury. But then it started getting me asking questions saying, well, what else? What else could be contributing to health problems? And that's where the doctors really came in, because doctors started reaching out to me saying, we've been looking for a dentist that will be open-minded to some of these things. And doctors knew a lot more about this than I did. Doctors, chiropractors, wellness centers, a lot of these practitioners were much more familiar with all of the connection between dentistry, dental health, and oral health than I was. So they started instructing me. They would say things like, gosh, have you heard the worry about root canals? Have you heard that they can be really bad for you? As I'm doing, 10 weeks myself. And I'd say, no, but thankfully, because of my experience in not having answers and being inside of the industry myself, being a practitioner and still not having the answers, because of that, I was open enough to say, well, let me do a little bit of digging. And thankfully, there's enough research now that I don't have to just make up stories, I would never do that anyway. Or I don't have to just rely on patient stories where they come back and say, oh, I feel so much better. I don't have to rely on those anymore, because now science is starting to back up what we're finding, that there are things in dentistry that have been done for hundreds of years that are actually they're not contributing to health. In fact, they're the opposite. They're leading us to poorer health. And some of those things are root canals, areas where teeth were removed, and the jawbone. Those are two biggies, gum disease. And then, like you said, breathing, some breathing issues as well, where people don't realize that a lot of these things can contribute to just absolute energy deficiency. You just can't have the energy you need if you can't get oxygen. So these are all kind of steps I took, and we can go through each one of these. Fluoride is another one. I
have to talk about you. We're going to talk about that prior.
Okay. So that's really where I have gone, is just really how don't close your mind to it and then start looking for the research. And that's really where my practice started to change, is when I was open enough to listen. And then I started doing my own research and my own searching, and I found answers.
And I just want to say how everyone did reach out to you, and they were giving you a lot of tips and different ways for you to go on your own path and to see different things, maybe see it a different way as a dentistry, right? As what you were currently doing. Because now obviously you did change to more homeopathic and more health, nutrition, and everything like that too. And I'm sure in the beginning, maybe you were like prior a little bit, but now you like switched 100% because you see everything that's like bad out there for us. And you're trying to alert the world and, let us all know kind of what's going on with that. So
for sure.
So I definitely have to say, as we're talking about everything, because we also know that you are a functional dentistry, correct? So if somebody was to ask you, what is functional dentistry? I know that's also what you go by.
Yeah, I actually love the word. The title that I like the most is called health-based dentistry. And the reason that I talk about it that way is because, well, when I first started down this path, the only thing I knew to call myself was a holistic dentist. But anytime you use the word holistic as part of what you're doing, automatically people start thinking you're going to be wearing tie-dye and you're going to be burning incense in your office and you're going to just be doing crazy talk stuff and you got crystals and things, and they automatically just discount everything you say. They just gosh, she's one of those crazy people. And so even though holistic, when you look at the definition of the word, makes sense because it's saying that everything is connected with the other thing, and so it's all whole and your whole body affects everything. And that makes sense. But there was just enough stereotyping that went along with that word holistic that I decided I just didn't want to use it really much anymore. I mean, we still use it because people sometimes are looking for that. But I don't think that like all those crazy stereotypes don't fit what we do at all. When people come to my office, they're actually quite surprised to find that we have an incredibly technologically advanced office. Everything we do has to be backed by science because people question what we do. So more than, just your regular old dentists on the corner, nobody's questioning what they're doing. because they're doing the things that people have been doing for 100 years in dentistry. Right. Nobody's questioning them. Nobody's asking them to prove what they're doing is right or the best thing for the body or anything else. Nobody's asking them, but they always ask me, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Where's the research? Where's the science? And so we are the most technologically advanced office you're going to find anywhere. We have the most state-of-the-art equipment and materials. We have, all of the procedures that we do we have to be able to stand behind. So I don't like the word holistic. We started using the word functional and integrative, but it was confusing to people, honestly. And so I've just settled into health-based.
Okay.
I like that terminology of it's health-based. Everything we do, we say, how is this affecting your health and how can I improve it? So that's why I use that terminology, is just health-based. And that's what it means.
So from health-based to everything when you switched over, is that where Living Well with Dr. Michelle came from?
Yeah. So as I started going through my own journey, I was changing all sorts of things at home. I was changing my diet and the way we were eating. We threw out all the, the junk food and things that we had at home. I started adding a lot of things into our garden and adding those into our meals and all of those things. And patients started saying, well, where can I find out more about what you're doing? Where are your recipes? Where can you teach me how to garden? And all of that. And so Living Well with Dr. Michelle was literally, it's just living well. It's what I do to live well at home. And it's just sharing it with other people, because they said, well, if you're going through these changes in this process, then we would love to know what you're doing, because we want to learn from you as you're doing this. And that's,
you want to do it too. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what Living Well with Dr. Michelle is it's just simply it's showing you what I'm doing at home. And it's a lot of exploration. I try a lot of things. I try it quickly, so I go through a lot of testing and things just at home and say, yeah, this worked, this didn't, this wasn't worth it, whatever it might be. And that's what Living Well is. And we then moved into the product development, because I couldn't find, people would say, well, gosh, what product should I use? What toothpaste should I use? And I was having a real hard time recommending anything. So finally I said, well, I guess I better make one. And so that's where the products came from. So we can dive a little into what those products are and the foundation behind them, if you'd like.
Of course, please. So I have this one, if you can see.
Yep. Yeah. Tooth powder.
This is the sensitive one.
Yep.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about this amazing product and what's in it?
Yep. So, mercury is one of those things in dentistry that nobody questions. And fluoride is the second. Mercury and fluoride are the two biggies in dentistry that people just don't question. And I don't think that that's a great way to approach your health, is just to take everything at face value and not question what's going into it. So let's talk a little bit about the genesis of fluoride in toothpastes. 100 years ago or more, they discovered that people that were drinking well water that had higher levels of fluoride. Well, first of all, some people that were drinking well water had stronger teeth. They also were kind of splotchy. They were kind of splotchy, yellow and white splotchy, but they never got cavities. So they said, well, what's in this water? Something's got to be in this water that's making this happen to the teeth. So they studied it and they found out it had high levels of fluoride, just naturally the water had high levels of fluoride because of the soil that it was in. So they found that it was making harder teeth. Sometimes, like I said, really not very pretty teeth, but harder teeth, harder, whiter, blotchier teeth. So they said, well, gosh, if this prevented cavities, then maybe we should just add it to everybody's water, because then it will help prevent cavities in everybody. So they started adding it to water across the country. Throughout the US, all of a sudden, a lot of municipal water supplies started adding fluoride to the water. Then they started adding it to toothpastes, because again, they said, well, if a little is good, then a lot's got to be better. So they started adding it to toothpaste as well. Toothpaste, mouth wrenches, everything that you can possibly have when dental, when you're talking dental, has fluoride in it nowadays. Wow. So what is the problem with this? Well, fluoride does change the structure of the tooth. So the outside of the tooth, the part that you see, is made of crystals. It's called enamel, and it's made of crystals. These crystals are mineral crystals. And those crystals do get harder and more brittle when you put fluoride in that crystal. Bone is very similar to tooth structure. So bone has the same crystalline structure as teeth do. So if it changes the structure of your tooth, it also changes the structure of your bone. And what they're finding is areas that have high fluoride have higher levels of hip fractures and other problems, because this stronger, more brittle is bad when it comes to bones. So now higher levels of fluoride are equaling hip problems, bone breakage issues. That was problem number one. Second problem with fluoride is very similar to iodine. If you look on the periodic table in high school chemistry, you'll see they're right next to each other. They're cousins. So iodine is what the thyroid uses to be able to activate its hormone and then give us the energy that we need. Well, if you have fluoride in the system, fluoride is the bigger bully to iodine, and it will push iodine out of the thyroid hormone and it will bind instead. So if you get a blood test and they're looking for low thyroid hormone levels, your tests are going to come back fine and normal. They're going to say you have plenty of thyroid hormone. What they aren't testing and can't test is that thyroid hormone activated by fluoride or by iodine? Because if it's activated by fluoride, it's useless to your body. So all these people who have hypothyroid issues, low energy problems, a lot of it very much could be contributed back to this fluoride and everything that we have, because fluoride's just pushing iodine out, making thyroid hormone ineffective. Another thing it does is it affects the way that the brain actually develops. And they're finding that in highly fluoridated areas, children are having lower IQ testing scores. Now, these are the kind of ones that people start to roll their eyes at. They're like, are you serious? Like, you're seriously going to say this? Go look at the research. There's PubMed research articles that tell you exactly what I just said, that IQ levels have dropped in areas that have higher levels of fluoride. So that's the big problem over here, right? That's the big elephant in the room. Does it make teeth stronger? Yeah. Does it cause a lot of other issues? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So is there something else that could make teeth stronger instead, so that we don't have to sacrifice our health for stronger teeth? I mean, are you really willing to sacrifice your child's brain, IQ levels for your teeth? Really? Are you really? So if there's something better, then why don't we try it? So what I studied is that the mineral that makes up the outside of the tooth is called hydroxyapatite. When a cavity forms, what happens is acid gets on the tooth. So it could be acid from your diet, could be, foods that are acidic, drinks that are acidic. It could also be acid from bacteria. So when bacteria eat sugar, they poop out acid, basically, and that's how they create a cavity. That acid dissolves minerals. So I always tell people, have you ever tried like pouring a Coke on the terminals on your battery on your car? It dissolves all that crud. That's what acid does. It dissolves minerals. It breaks them apart.
Yes.
So when that acid gets on your tooth, it dissolves the minerals. It pulls the minerals out of your tooth, leaves a hole, and tiny hole. The bacteria crawl into the hole, eat more sugar, drop more acid, create a deeper hole, and that's how a cavity is formed. So we can stop that if we can plug that hole back up with minerals, right? We just put minerals back in the hole. So what mineral should we use? A mineral that never came out of the hole like fluoride, or should we use the mineral that was there to begin with, which is hydroxyapatite?
The mineral that was there to begin with.
Doesn't it make sense? That's what was lost. Let's put it back. Yeah. So this is called remineralizing your tooth. So that's what the tooth powder has in it, is hydroxyapatite, which is the mineral the teeth are made of. Yeah. So if the tooth is if it's being dissolved, then let's just put a mineral back. And teeth can actually heal this way. You can have a cavity heal this way. If the cavity is still just in the outside layer of the tooth and the enamel of the tooth, and you add hydroxyapatite to it, you can actually heal and stop that cavity from developing any further. If it's deeper into the inside layer of the tooth, the dentist needs to help you get that cleaned out and filled. But a shallow cavity can actually be healed with hydroxyapatite. So that's where the tooth powder started. And I started just with one formula. And then I figured out a lot of people want whiter teeth as well. And the cool thing is that hydroxyapatite actually helps to whiten teeth because it makes them more dense. So when you look at them, they just look whiter because there's more minerals in them, and the hydroxyapatite is white. So it already helps. But then I made a whitening formula that has some special components in there that help to get rid of stain while whitening. Made the sensitive formula, which is what you have. It has a special component called arginine bicarbonate that really plugs those tubes in the tooth and makes them really less sensitive. And we have another one that's a citrus flavor that kids often like. Everybody likes, but kids like it too. So that's really where we started. Excuse me. And then I said, you know what? There's so many problems with mouth rinse too. And that's a whole nother story, but there's so many problems with mouth rinse. Exactly. There's the mouth rinse, because I don't know if people, if they recognize that Listerine and mouth rinses like that are 60, 70% alcohol. They are so high in alcohol. And what that alcohol does is a couple of bad things. It kills the good bugs in your mouth, which then kill the good bugs in your gut. Like all of this is kind of this whole spiral that happens, but it also dries out your mouth, which leads to more cavities, which leads to bad breath. So the mouth rinse that you're using to help with bad breath actually leads to more bad breath, which is a great thing for the people who are selling you mouth rinse, right? Because you're
Yes.
never going to be able to stop using it.
That's
So
terrible.
what I did is I said, this makes no sense. Let's get a mouth rinse that actually just kills bad bugs but leaves good bugs alone, that rebuilds teeth while we're at it. So and it actually has a whole bunch of other herbals in it that help to strengthen gums, soothe gums, take down inflammation, all sorts of things, kill candida in the mouth. So this is a mouth rinse that does all of that instead of the things that the mouth rinses that have alcohol in them do. So that's really the genesis of the products, is I just knew that I needed something and I couldn't find it. So I had to make it. So that's been a really fun thing for me to realize, you know what? In my kitchen, I can put together ingredients that are useful and helpful for people's health and mouth health. And that has since just snowballed into a huge business that provides all these products. And they're things, again, that I used to live well. So just helping other people live well.
What I love the most, though, about the mouthwash is if you look at the bottle, it literally says you could digest anything. You don't have to call poison control if you ingest something by accident.
Yep.
That's pretty exciting, because everything, nowadays you do have to call poison control if it's anything like that. So I think it's more the fact that I want to definitely make sure all the products that I use, especially having you on the show, you're obviously going to promote. Everybody's in the comments are asking where you can purchase it. So I want you to give the opportunity where they can get them too. But the opportunity is everyone will try out these products and they'll see a huge impact on the amazing dentistry of what it can do for them. Yes.
Yeah.
Can I, Dr. Michelle, can I comment really quick?
Please.
I have to say that when I've been on TikTok and I've seen people sell these type of products, it's totally different because you don't know where it's coming from. But when you know that it's coming from somebody that's actually making it, it's a whole different thing.
And because, they care.
Yeah, and you care. And I've tried the products. I've tried most of them, and they're amazing. The tooth powder, it makes your mouth feel nice and fresh. It feels clean. Feels like you just left the dentist's office.
Yep.
And it makes your breath smell nice. And everything that you sell has got that same thing associated with it. I will say this really quick about the bone structure. I learned from Dr. Barbara that our bones are not just calcium and vitamin D. They're boron, they're many other things. So what you're saying is, if the fluoride takes over all them different minerals that are supposed to be in the teeth, that's why our teeth start degrading, because we're not putting the minerals. It's not in the food. It's not in the soil. You're not taking the supplements, so you're not getting them. Is that what you're saying? And you're correct on that too.
Yep, 100%. There's so many deficiencies that we have in the world today. So let's put back where, what things are deficient, because there are definitely deficiencies. We need to put back what we're missing. Yep.
I just wanted to say, one of my good friends, Paula Biger, that's tuning in as well. She wants to know, what does Michelle think about castor oil or
oil pulling?
Oil pulling.
Coconut oil pulling. Yes. I've been doing that too.
Yes. Yep. So you have to understand, again, it's funny because I was just speaking at a conference this weekend too. And a lot of the things I was talking about food for a healthy mouth this weekend. And a lot of things I was talking about, I would ask people, well, let's get into actually the chemistry, the science. Let's figure out how this works. And once you understand how it works, then all of a sudden you understand how it works. So that's why I try to explain things like the way teeth are made and what are they made of. So the way oil pulling works, this is an old Ayurvedic technique from India from thousands of years ago. And the way it works is every cell, our cells, as well as bacteria, virus, all of them, every cell is surrounded by fats. That's just the way every cell is made. It's called a lipid layer around the outside. So when you put fats in your mouth, so you put coconut oil in your mouth, what you're doing is fats will attract fats. So when you're swishing it around, it literally is pulling bacteria and attracting that fat on the outside layer into the oil that you're swishing around. This is a great thing if you need to balance the bugs in your mouth. So this is really good for gum disease, for any of those situations. It also, this again is not necessarily scientifically proven, although there's some research coming out that it shows that it's also balancing the gut biome. So not just the oral biome, the bugs that live here, but also the bugs that live in the gut, because some of that is digested, all that's happening. But here's my one caveat is some people will just say, do this every single day. I actually don't believe in doing it every single day. And the reason is some of those bugs in your mouth are there for a reason. Your mouth is the entry point to every bite of food you take in, most of the air that you take in. The bacteria are there as our defense. If we kill them all, then we are going to be undefended. Basically, we have like this fortress that has no soldiers at the wall. Nobody's defending us. So we need bacteria, and we need a lot of them in the mouth. But there are good bacteria, there's ones that help us and that defend us, and then there's ones that harm us. So the idea is to balance the number of bacteria so that the good ones can outnumber the bad ones. So if you are oil pulling every single day, you are going to be getting rid of all microbes, all bugs. And I don't think that that's needed, number one, for health, but I think it actually could be detrimental over the long run because you could be throwing off those balances. So what I recommend for people is when they're doing oil pulling to do it about 3 days in a row, just to kind of get things rolling, and then only do it about every third or fourth day. So a couple times a week is really all you need just to kind of balance things, get things kind of, back in motion, back moving again. But really, we want to keep a lot of these good bugs there. That's why the mouth rinse has colloidal silver in it. And some people will push back and say colloidal silver is a problem.
Wait, I did not know that. We use silver.
Yeah, we use silver all the time.
All right.
That's the base of the mouth rinse is colloidal silver. So the cool thing about colloidal silver versus ionic silver will turn you blue. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody that's turned blue because they're using too much silver. Ionic silver will actually deposit in the tissues, in the cells, and so it will turn your cells blue. You'll turn your skin blue, literally. But colloidal silver doesn't. It doesn't actually, it's not ionic, meaning it's not looking for something to attach to. So it just floats around, but it will kill bugs, and it's selective. It will kill the bad guys, but it will leave the good guys alone. So that's why I love the mouth rinse, because the colloidal silver is selectively killing the bad bugs and keeping the good bugs there to continue doing their job.
That's amazing. So, I did not know it had colloidal silver because we live by that. We use that all the time when we go outside, just for immune support.
Exactly right. Yep. That's the base of the mouth rinse is colloidal silver. So
I will say this, Dr. Michelle, that I like your approach of everything, the health part. I also like the idea that, I know you touched a little bit on root canals, but my thoughts are, I had a root canal years ago when I was a younger adult, and it broke, but it was a mercury. I'm kind of glad it broke out, but I did have another one later on. It was actually throwing off all the bacteria in my mouth, and mercury fumes it's like, like a battery, they say, in your mouth. The more acidic food you eat, the more battery acid comes out. And when I had that mercury pulled out, of course, it's got to be done by somebody that knows what they're doing, and refilled again. It can really change your whole, makeup of your body. So I think that because I think that all the teeth, a lot of people don't know, but all the teeth are connected to all our organs because they're tubules, as you said, and they're also working with the dentin and going through, the little capillaries and everything in our bodies, where if you cut that off and do a root canal, you're blocking that tooth from now getting it, whether it was corroded, destroyed, or whatever. It's now blocked. So whatever that goes to, whether it's the breast or whatever it is, it's going to cause either a problem with it, heart disease, cancer, and all the other things. You agree with that?
Yeah. So there's something called the tooth meridian chart. If you can look it up again, it's what it does is it actually shows. This is all based on old, acupuncture information that was generated, where the body has a wiring system. And when I describe this to people, sometimes people again start getting that glassy-eyed look, like, she's talking about energy again. I'm like, no. I'm not talking about energy. I'm talking about the thing that makes your heart pump. I'm talking about the thing that makes your brain fire. I'm talking about the literal electrons that course through your body nonstop, 24/7. And if they stop, you die. Like, that's the electrons. That's the energy I'm talking about. And whether it's related to the other energy, I believe it probably is. But this is simpler for people to understand. It's just like the energy that's in your house. How do you think that the light gets, how does the light turn on when you flip the switch? Because energy flows from the light switch to the light, and there's something impeding it or blocking it when the switch is off. That's why the energy cannot flow to the light bulb. The same thing happens in the body. So every single tooth is connected to an organ system somewhere in the body. It's the same way that we have connection top to bottom with our nervous system. You know, we got a brain up here is connected with our pinky toe down there. How? Well, there's a connection. There's a connecting line, a nervous system line. Blood vessels the same. Lymph vessels the same. Same with electrical system. Our wiring system has connection top to bottom. Every tooth is connected to an organ system. So when you have an impedance in that line, it's the same as turning the light switch off. So if you have a root canal, a mercury filling, something in an infection in a tooth, it literally is like turning the light switch off to the rest of the organs that are on that same line. So we see a lot of connection. Let me back up a little and explain why a root canal is problematic this way. When a root canal is done, what happens is, well, first of all, if you have a cavity that goes to the nerve of the tooth or a break that goes to the nerve of the tooth, the nerve is exposed. And in a tooth, when the nerve is exposed, the nerve dies. So now the center portion of the tooth is dead. So to do a root canal, what they do is they drill down into that center portion of the tooth. They use these tiny little files that clean out all the dead nerve tissue inside of the main root. It's called the root canal. It's the canal inside of the root. They clean it out, disinfect it using bleach. That's actually the material that we use to disinfect a root canal is bleach. Put that inside of the tooth, and then you fill it up with a plastic-like material called gutta percha. The trouble is there are little tiny tubes that go off of that main canal. That's how the tooth gets nutrients, from the base of the tooth all the way out to the part you see. Those little tiny tubes are too small to clean and too small to fill. There's no way we can clean every single tube inside of a tooth. You can ask any dentist and they will admit this exact same thing. There's no way to completely clean it. So there's always going to be dead tissue left inside of that tooth. Well, this is the reason why if you have a gallbladder attack, they don't take your gallbladder out, clean it up, and then shove it back in again. Well, they know it would never work. Your body would never accept a dead organ, but a tooth that has a root canal is actually a dead organ. It's still in your body and it's still dead. It's dead. It has no blood vessels. It has no nerve tissue. It's dead. So bugs find the dead stuff. They always do. And they always collect around the end of the root of these teeth. You don't know that it's happening though, because the nerve is gone. So your early warning system is gone. You don't even know it's happening. You don't know this, but the bacteria are spreading, eating away all the bone at the end of the tooth root. Every time you chew, you're shoving that bacteria into the bloodstream, into the bone, and that infection is spreading everywhere. So that's the light switch, turning off the light on a system, on a connected system. These teeth right here are breasts. So I have yet to find somebody who has cancer in their body, and I don't find infection somewhere in their mouth. It doesn't actually happen. I've yet to find it. These teeth, particularly, if somebody comes in with breast cancer, I say, "Where's your root canal?" We look at their X-ray, and right there is usually right where the root canal is, because that is just turned off the light switch to breast health.
There you go.
I just got a root canal, Dr.
I told her not to, Doc.
With porcelain crown, but now I'm so scared because of what you're saying.
It's the dead root, unfortunately. So the key is the cone beam CT scan. So the problem is why are we not talking about this? Again, it's one of those things in dentistry we're not talking about. Why are we not talking about it? Because we can't see it. Traditional dental x-rays don't show. They do if they get really large. If the infection at the end of a root canal gets really large, it shows on a traditional x-ray. However, most of the time it is not going to show up on a traditional x-ray. It only shows up on something called a cone beam CT scan. That's a 3D x-ray that some dentists have, usually surgeons have. Dentists who are looking for this have them. A lot of times specialists will have, dental specialists will have them, and they show us everything in 3 dimensions. As soon as I started looking at these cone beam CT scans, I got a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I said, I had no idea. I had no idea how many of these old root canals have huge abscesses at the end of the roots. And I had no idea how those abscesses can affect the rest of the body. So when I started putting 2 and 2 together, I stopped doing root canals completely. I had to draw that line in the sand very quickly. I said, no, I will never do another. I have to give it as an option to every single patient, because that is legally what I'm required to do. So if you get an infected tooth, if you have an abscessed tooth, I always have to give you the option of a root canal, but I will also give you the option of removing that tooth. And that is what I would do if it were my tooth, is I would remove the tooth, because it's not worth risking the health and the rest of the body that's connected, in my mind. Again, this is all a personal decision, and sometimes it's based on your overall health. You know, if someone is very ill before they get a root canal, that's going to just push them over the edge. If somebody's very young, and perhaps you are, you know, you're young, you're healthy, maybe you're okay for a few years. My son, he took a baseball to the mouth when he was 11 and broke out 3 of his front teeth. We did a root canal on one of them, and it stayed there till he was about 23, old enough to get a dental implant. By that time, it had abscessed. We had to do a whole bunch of bone grafting to rebuild all the destruction that had happened because of the root canal. So that's another thing to know about. But sometimes we use it to hold the tooth in place for a little while until we can do a dental implant. You know, so it's not the end of the world if you get one, but just know that it has a lot of potential to create health problems elsewhere in the body that you don't even understand.
I'm scared.
Is there any way to turn that light switch back on in that tooth without having an unroot canal? There's no way, because once the tissue's dead, you said?
It's just like a gallbladder. You can't make a gallbladder come back to life. Once that is dead.
I have 2 more they want to do, but I said within time I can't afford.
Like I told her, please, you know, rethink about I know you're young, but rethink about doing a root canal for every tooth, because I know, and you're probably going to agree with me, that a lot of dentists agree to do it because it's a money thing. The insurance companies make money.
No. And they think, honestly, dentists, our job, we were told, is to save teeth. That's our job, is to save your teeth.
Right.
Yeah.
So a root canal does that in essence. We save it. It saves it. It's in your head still. But what I say now, because it used to be that I would do anything to save a tooth. And now I say, you know what? I will do anything to save your health, even if it means removing and replacing a tooth. Your health isn't worth a tooth, because I can replace a tooth.
Yeah.
Well, another reason is, I think, as you said, Dr. Michelle, is what we were explained to is because the tooth, it's now there's a space there, and then the bone structure, as the teeth move or change, it changes that. And there's a lot of other different things that they tell you, and they put you in the fear thing of doing it. And then they say, well, we suggest to get it done. It's kind of hard not to do it, especially if you're not a dentist and the dentist is telling you to do it at the best of your knowledge.
Yep. That's why I try to share this. I saw somebody said something about wisdom teeth and anxiety, so we'll touch on that quickly.
Yes, my mother did.
Yeah, put it back.
I saw that. When a tooth is removed, there is something called it's called the PDL, periodontal ligament, that surrounds the tooth. And that ligament doesn't just naturally come out with a tooth. So it's kind of like the placenta and a baby. You have to remove it separately. And that ligament, if it's left behind after a tooth is removed, the body doesn't know that the tooth's gone for about 10 days. And in that 10 days time, the gums grow over the top. It's like just a cut, you know, things. I'm just healing a cut here. The gums grow over the top down to the hole, but the bone doesn't start growing because it thinks the tooth is still there. Finally, the ligament dies. It goes, oh, I'm supposed to heal bone, but there's no room to heal the bone anymore. So now you get a dead ligament surrounded by gum tissue and no bone where bone should be. This is one scenario. There's a couple of other things that lead to it, but what it leads to is these areas in the jawbone that just don't fill in with bone. And that dead ligament inside of there, that gum tissue, creates a dead zone in the bone. Same thing. Bugs are attracted to dead spots. So these get filled with bacteria, viruses, parasites. I mean, the craziest things you can imagine. Inflammation skyrockets. And the things that are really connected, especially to wisdom teeth removals, are anxiety, energy deficits. So just not feeling like you have enough energy, adrenal, thyroid problems, and hormone issues. Those are biggies with wisdom teeth areas. So we'll see a lot of people who say, gosh, I've just had anxiety or sleeping issues, energy problems since I was like 17. And I'll say, well, when did you get your wisdom teeth out? When I was 17.
Wow. Like quick.
You associate it right away. Yeah. That's,
Yep. So many things like this are just untalked about, not really known, but there are things hiding in your mouth that you need to know about that affect your health. So the cone beam CT scan is the key. You have to be able to see it. And like I said, dentists don't know. They just don't know because they can't see it unless they have this technology. They have the ability to take these scans. They just can't see it. But now we can. And now, to me, there really isn't any excuse.
I have another question for you, my good friend Vinny, that's tuning in. Can you see it, Dr. Michelle?
Yep. Is it true that it costs more money to remove a tooth than to have a root canal? It depends. Depends on who you're talking to. Usually it's about equal. To remove the tooth or to have a root canal, it's about equal a cost. But when you remove it, you now have the cost of replacing. So that may bump the cost higher because now you're going to need to replace that tooth that's missing. But I will often tell people, just get the tooth out, get to the point of health. We can replace it later. There's always a runway we can move down, to replacing, but your health is waiting. It's waiting. You know what I mean? It's not going to wait for you to be able to replace the tooth. It's waiting for you to remove the tooth. Remove the tooth. We can always wait to replace it. So
is there a point, Dr. Michelle, where it's almost inevitable for you to a point where you have to get a root canal because the tooth is so damaged and it's so diseased that it's either either do root canal or take it out, or you don't.
We just take them out.
She would take it out.
Yeah,
that's what she does now. She doesn't do anymore. Yeah. You don't do root canals anymore at your.
Nope. We just take them out and replace them, or we save them. There are ways that we can save teeth. If teeth have a really deep cavity, but they are not dead yet, and so that may be where yours are. The teeth are, the cavities are getting bigger, but the teeth are still alive. If that's the situation, then we actually save them. About 95% of those teeth we save, keep alive, no root canal, no removal. We save them. The way we do it is we remove the deepest cavity, but don't expose the nerve. So remember, that's what happens. If the nerve is exposed, the nerve dies. We don't expose or uncover the nerve. We take away the cavity down to the point where if we took more, then the nerve would be exposed. We're now going into either a root canal or a removal. We remove it down to that layer, and then we treat it with ozone. Ozone kills bacteria on contact. So what it's going to do is it's going to kill the bacteria that are creating that cavity, kills all of the bacteria, completely sterilizes the tooth. We just fill over it. And now the cavity doesn't progress, doesn't get any deeper, doesn't kill the tooth. We save the tooth alive. You never need a root canal, or you don't have to remove the teeth. Neither option. The best option is use ozone and save the tooth. Take out the decay, keep the tooth alive, and save it.
I mean, I know you're in Utah, but on your website as well, there is like a way that people can, like, you have different trackers, right? I think in different states. I think there's one in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. That's where we're from.
Yeah. So the website is livingwellwithdrmichelle.com. Mm-hmm. And that website, we have a directory, a dentist finder on there. So you can go on there, and these are dentists that have been vetted by me. I know that they provide at least some of the things that we do in our office. Not all of them. Our office is a multi-specialty practice. You're probably not going to find an office like ours anywhere else in the United States because we have 8 doctors all under one roof. We're all providing, we're all specialists in our thing, and you're probably not going to find that elsewhere. But they at least provide some of what we do, and we feel good about the way they provide care. And so that's on livingwellwithdrmichelle.com. That's also where you find all the products. So for people who are asking that, that's where you find the products, livingwellwithdrmichelle.com. And that's where the dentist finder is. So you can find somebody who can do things like this, who can save teeth. Yep, there are.
Now, we were talking about your product line where you have so many more products, obviously, about, your gut and everything too. But I want to give you the option to talk about your books with the gardening. So you give me an idea of how you.
Do you have bundles? Like, people are asking me, do you have bundles? Like,
yeah, we're actually selling the books right now. Actually, they're all on sale, like majorly on sale. So go on there. I don't even remember what it is, but yeah, there's a huge sale on them because it's like Earth Day or something, right? It's Earth Day right now. So it's like our Earth Day sale because we want you to use the earth and garden and do all of this stuff. And yeah, so really that was just part of, again, just more of the spinoff of Living Well. I started getting into self-sufficiency. So being able to provide for ourselves. We have a homestead here, and started just learning and teaching myself how to do things. And people would say, can you teach us? And so I put all the information into a book. So I have a book on emergency preparedness called Be Prepared, Not Scared. I have a book on self-sufficiency, which is called Self-Sufficient Living, 12 Steps to Provide for Yourself. I have another book on real food for real families. So this is all about how do you provide real food for your family that you can feel good about, that's going to help with health, dental health, and overall health. But also is doable in 30 minutes a day. Like, how do you actually put that kind of food on your table? So that's real food for real families. I have a book about dental health called Healthy Mouth, Healthy You. It teaches you all the stuff that I'm talking here about, but in a real user-friendly, simple to implement way. So those, I believe, are all on sale on the site right now. So check them out. Go see what's on there. Go see what you're interested in. I'm a book reader and a book writer. I love to read, and I can usually take whatever I read in a book and turn it into life, turn it into practice. So because I can do that, I now try to simplify, 10 books into one and say, okay, this is just the stuff you need to know. Just take this and go do it. This is going to help. So that's where the books came from.
Incredible. She's amazing. I told you. I truly love having you here. I mean, I don't even want to say goodbye when the show ends officially. But I just have to say the time and everything that you gave us and the information for everyone out there, a lot of people that were tuning in, my family and friends too, we're also excited to hear that there's somebody out there that is trying to show the good side of what everything that's bad out there, that there's still hope for teeth that are, almost going to be dead, or there's different ways that we can go around it, especially with the fluoride situation. Now I just wanted to give you the opportunity because these are amazing and really, really strong, but I have the elderberry all natural and the plus immune support that I also did get from your website. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about elderberry.
Okay, so I'm big into herbal medicines. In fact, so I'm writing a book right now. It's going to be published by Simon & Schuster, by an imprint of Simon & Schuster next spring. So watch for that. It's going to be called
You Go Girl.
Yeah, hopefully called Well. They get a little bit of say in the title of it. So at the current moment, it's currently called Well. But it talks all about how do we use plants for health. And well, it talks about how do we use the 5 elements of the earth to get more energy. And plants are one of the 5 elements of the earth. So elderberries are one of the plants that I use a ton. Elderberries are something that have been used for hundreds of years. Every grandma, would make elderberry syrup for their grandkids and would feed it to them when they were coughing or not feeling well, or even just stay well. Elderberries have amazing immune properties. They help your immune system stay strong. And really, when people say, well, how do you not get sick? Well, the answer is you help your body stay well. And we focus so much on sick and disease and curing. Well, really, the focus should be on staying well. Our bodies don't need to get better if they never got sick to begin with. Correct. So elderberries fall into that category of helping us stay well. They help support all of the systems so that you never have to get sick to begin with. And that's why we have the whole elderberry line that has just plain elderberry concentrate. We also have one that has herbals that help with energy, another that has herbals that help with immune system, and another has herbals that help with inflammation. We also have a couple of teas, one for energy in the morning and one for sleep in the evening, and they're all herbal based. I am 100% believer that everything that we need is here in the earth, in the natural world around us. We have just completely forgotten and lost the information about how to utilize it. It's time we learn again.
You know what? The other thing is you posted something, I think, on your Instagram or Facebook about grounding, right? Yep. We were also putting your feet on the ground. So that's also something.
The earth element. Yep. 100%. So the earth is an absolute massive resources of electrons. And again, it goes back to that energy we were talking about. What flows from the light switch to the light bulb to turn it on? It's electrons. Well, what flows from your cells to your muscles to make them move, your cells to your brain to make it fire? What does that? It's electrons. Well, if your light bulb needs them to run, your cells need them to run too. And where do you get them from? The earth is a massive bank of electrons, but you can't get them unless you touch the earth. So this is grounding, and there's many different ways you can do it. There's grounding shoes, grounding sheets, or you just can simply for free go and sit on the ground. That's the best, most free medicine there is.
That's amazing. Wow. So tell me if you have anything upcoming, whether besides we talked about your new book that you're working on. Do you have more product line you're also working on? More products?
We're actually working on a toothpaste right now that has an ingredient that's never been used in a toothpaste that literally kills gum disease completely, takes care of gum disease completely, and is almost 100% amazing at taking care of cavities. Like you use this, you don't get another cavity. So
we all need this, and we all need that.
Yeah. So that should hopefully be out in about 3 months' time. We're just right in the middle of formulation right now.
I'm excited to hear about that. So that will be posted or promoted, probably teasers. You'll be posting.
We'll get that all on there. Yep.
I have another question real quick. This is about neutralizing the mouth acid in your mouth, because I had problems years ago with a lot of acidic foods when I wasn't really eating a lot of acidic foods. And they said my saliva count was really low. And I was drinking a lot of water at the time. Do you have any type of thoughts on that?
So your saliva should be able to naturally neutralize what's going on with the acid in the mouth. The key is you have to give it enough time. And that may be the key for you. Every time you eat something, the pH in your mouth or the acidity increases. Basically, it gets more acidic. Every time you eat, it becomes more acidic because that acidity helps to digest the food. You start digesting your food in your mouth. So it becomes more acidic every time you eat. Well, then saliva comes and neutralizes the acidity. So if you're eating every 15, 20 minutes, if you're snacking, you're never allowing the saliva to bring it back to a neutral level. You're never giving it a chance to do the job.
Right.
So that's a key, but also making sure that some people will say things like, oh, drink lemon in your water. It's so great for you. It's true. But guess what? That's acidic. So if you're constantly just swigging water with lemon in it, what are you doing? You're constantly dropping the pH in your mouth. You're constantly making more acidic. You're constantly dissolving your teeth. So I just reinforced, and somebody at this conference this weekend said, well, how about kombucha? I said, is kombucha acidic? And they're like, no. I said, are you kidding? It tastes like apple cider vinegar. Of course it's acidic. If you drink kombucha all day long and just sip it, you are dissolving your teeth. Yeah. Like, you have to think, I have to give my mouth a chance to neutralize. I have to give my mouth a chance to neutralize. Plain water is fine. Do check your water, though. There's a way to get, there's really inexpensive pH drops that you can buy on Amazon or anywhere, and test and see, is your water acidic? Because I think you may be fine. You may be shocked to find that even filtered water may be acidic. This is a real quick and easy for like $7 on Amazon. You can get a bottle of pH reagent drops and find out what is the acidity of the water that you're drinking. So it's just all about science. It's just all about acid. You just have to give your mouth a chance to neutralize, and then you can add alkaline foods or alkaline creating foods in the mouth as well. Things like, there's some that I love. Yogurt is one of those that's alkaline. So there are things that you can do to actually decrease the acidity, but honestly, the best thing to do is just give it time between food.
It's incredible. Oh, I don't want to say bye.
Oh, thank you so much. You gave us a lot of information.
Great. Well, thank you both for hosting this, and I'm glad we can share.
Thank you. I'm excited to share this all on social media so a lot of people can see it, and post it everywhere as well for yourself. It will be live on my my website as well this week. Thank you again for your time. If you need anything, you can always reach out to us. Please let us know when you have the new toothpaste too. We'd love to help promote it here on Hamilton Radio. We obviously probably will be purchasing more of your products as well. Now you can tell that I have them. I had to try them, obviously. And then when I get a chance to talk to you again, I do want to go over snoring with you another time. But I just want to say that it's incredible to get to know you. And we have one more question for you.
We'll get one more question in before we go.
Are you
an alchemist?
Alchemist. Well, I like to combine things and make them be like gold. So perhaps you could say that. I'm a formulator. Let's say it that.
Okay. Well, that's an amazing way to end the show. Thank you again, Dr. Michelle. We really appreciate your time. And everyone can find her products on livingwellwithdrmichelle.com and go get her books. They're on sale right now as we speak. I think till midnight tonight, right?
I don't even know. Good.
And Dr. Michelle, when we end, we're going to talk to you for a couple minutes, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you guys tune in every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Have a good night.